I'm Pete Hines from Bethesda. I'm the Vice President of PR and Marketing.
Okay, and we're here today to talk about The Evil Within, which is, you've got this nice guy behind us. We'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, it's a brand new survival horror game.
Yep.
And I understand you have some great names working on it.
When it comes to survival horror, you don't get a name much better than Shinji Mikami, creator of Resident Evil 1, also did Resident Evil 4, considered to be the father of survival horror, and he and his team at Tango really wanted to take survival horror back to its roots, kind of away from this very action-heavy action focus that we're getting now, and to something that's a bit more balanced, which is not to say there's no action, there's plenty of action, but it is not always, guns and lots of ammo and mowing down lots of enemies. You have to be a bit smarter than that. You have limited resources. You got to keep your wits about you and try and sort of think your way through various situations. A lot of time, the best solution is to run and hide.
In the demo, we saw it starts in an asylum, and obviously that's a very traditional.
Sure.
We love the asylum in horror. What other sort of settings can we expect?
The story and the settings for The Evil Within become a bit mysterious and something we're not really talking about because Sebastian doesn't really understand. Obviously, the asylum is a focal point, but you start visiting different locations, various villages and other places, but Sebastian isn't entirely sure what's going on, nor are you, and you're not entirely sure, is this real or was the other thing real? How is all this tied together? That's really the puzzle that you're going to be unraveling as you play through the game.
To talk very briefly about the weapons, in the demo, I know we saw he does use a knife, but he doesn't seem to carry that with him. He has limited ammo for a gun.
Right.
And there was also some sort of trap mine
a mine
thing.
trap, right.
Yeah.
So traps are a very big theme in the game. Traps are something you're going to be coming across a lot that enemies are going to be trying to use on you. When he sees the enemies that are rushing the house and going to come busting through the window, you're able to sort of tactically set up how to deal with a large number of enemies where just your pistol alone isn't going to suffice. There's also going to be environmental traps, and maybe you're trying to set up a situation where you're luring enemies into a trap that you then trigger to get rid of them. But it is all about balancing those resources. You got a few bullets. How are you going to use them? Even in the demo where you saw that he lit a body on fire.
Yeah.
So you can wound an enemy in the leg and have him go down, and then you run up to him and light him on fire so you don't use a bullet. But sometimes enemies will go down and be pretending that they're dead for you to run over or wounded, and they're waiting for you to get close so they can leap up at you and try and get you. So we have this dynamic thing where everything doesn't happen exactly the same way every time. Every time you shoot somebody in the head, they don't always die. Sometimes they shake it off and keep coming. So that unpredictability really keeps you off balance and keeps you from getting too comfortable in I know exactly how to handle this.
And that is the danger of some horror games. They get very comfortable very quickly. And just from the demo, it is very what is going on? There's stuff all over the place. Right. In the demo we saw, I'm not going to say everything we saw a nice lady. I'm not going to tell you what she's about.
You get a glimpse of her though in the teaser trailer that we put out, the multi-legged scary woman.
Yeah, she's something.
Yes.
There's also almost I guess the sort of basic NPCs, like zombie sort of things.
Yeah, there's some humanoid enemies that you saw there during one part. You have the larger hulking chainsaw guy. He's more like a mid-boss guy. Boxman is another example of that, where we're gonna get sort of twists here and there as you come across enemies that you haven't seen before that present a unique challenge in terms of how you deal with them.
Is he a recurring guy?
Let's not define how much or how little he shows up, but this is an example of one of the tougher enemies that you're gonna come across. You notice he's got barbed wire wrapped around his head. Barbed wire is a theme in the game. It kind of plays to this idea of traps and things. You'll see it here and there throughout the game. We want to present ever varied challenges to the player in the form of the kind of enemies they're facing. And then, of course, it's up to Sebastian is trying to figure out what exactly are all of these things? Where are they coming from? Do they represent something? Are they something manifested? Are they real? Are they not? All those things are for you and Sebastian to figure out.
One final question, which is obviously it is a very Japanese horror. You look at it and you go, this is Japanese horror. Why do you think this is still such a big thing? I mean, it is in movie and all of this stuff. Why do you think it gets to the heart of horror?
One of the things that Shinji has talked about is that what scares people today and what scared people 10 years ago are not the same thing. It used to be back in the day the blood and gore was probably enough to freak people out or get them scary. Now you see blood and stuff in just your average everyday shooter. So you got to go beyond that and find new ways to scare the player and to always be changing it up so it doesn't become too one note, like, oh, it's always a thing jumping out of a door at the exact same moment. That it can't be so predictable. And really this game is Tango trying to make something that they feel passionate about, but it is all ultimately filtered through Shinji.
Oh, yeah.
This is the game that is in his head, a guy who loves survival horror as a thing, whether it's movies or games, and has a very clear idea for the experience he wants to give to the player. And so everything in the game, from sound effects to lighting to characters, all run through him in terms of like how they fit where it is ultimately he wants this game to go. And he's obviously got a pretty good handle on what scares people and also what's fun, because it is important to know this is not just we want you to be scared and nothing else. We want you to have fun. We want you to have some sense of pride when you solve a puzzle or get through a difficult challenge, that like, I did that, I survived that. I don't know how in the world I lived through that, but I did, and you have a sense of accomplishment.
Well, I don't think there is a release date yet, but are you looking at what platforms it's going to be out?
Coming out next year. We haven't defined a date yet, and it's coming out for PC, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, and PS3.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. I'm very excited about this game, and hopefully more to follow closer to the release date.